This is Matthew Arnone, and you're listening to Vibe 105.
Vibe Talks. Vibe Talks. More than just music.
Hey everybody, this is Giancarlo Aulino reporting for Vibe 105 with a Sports VIBEtalks segment where we're going to be talking about all things CPL and initiatives being taken in soccer right now. To help us out, we're happy to be joined by our guest, making his return to the Vibe 105 airwaves, York 9 FC defender Matthew Arnone. How you doing, Matthew?
Doing good. Thanks for having me again. Last time was fun, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, last time you were a member of the Halifax Wanderers, and now hometown team York 9 FC. So how's that been?
It's great. I mean, to play at home is something unique, especially in professional sports. Usually your hometown has one team. So, I mean, you're talking 23 roster spots, and to be selected, the chances are pretty slim. So, when they kind of gave me the call, it was a bit of a no-brainer, obviously. And now I'm here with family and friends, and especially given the pandemic and what's been going on this year, it's been important to be at home with my loved ones, right? So kind of worked out in a great way, even though obviously it's an unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah, this whole pandemic too, it's been changing a lot of things with pro sports, especially the training aspect of it. So signing with this new team, the preparations, I'm sure we're starting for the CPL season, and then obviously everything got put on hold. So how was that the training aspect, COVID, like what impact has it had on you and the team?
Yeah, I mean, for the team, it had a big impact. Obviously, in February, we left, late February, I believe it was, or early March, maybe. We left to warmer weather. We went down south to Orlando. We had a couple weeks in preseason there, which came to obviously a sudden halt when, on an emergency basis, we flew back home because of the pandemic. And obviously that throws a big wrench in the plans, right? And as you're preparing for the team, I think on a medical staff perspective as well, having, a bit of a background in it, that you plan around the season, right? And you plan 8 weeks out, 7 weeks out, 6 weeks out, and kind of what the trainings look like. So obviously that threw a huge wrench in that plan. And then obviously getting back to training, everyone's excited, of course, to get back out on the field after such a big break. But I think it's kind of all hands on deck. You kind of it's nothing we can ever prepare for because no one's ever really been through a pandemic in professional sports and in life. You're seeing obviously the repercussions of a pandemic. So we're just trying to take it in stride as best as we can. And, I think a fluid mindset is obviously gonna benefit any team or any professional sports organization because you've never prepared for this because you've never had to. So, it's been an interesting thing, but trying to take it all in stride.
And like your own training, like I'm sure being in pro sports shape, like it's different when you're training on the pitch every single day. You have like a training routine going on. So being at home, like how did that change everything around for you?
I mean, for me specifically, it changes a lot. The word match fitness is thrown around a lot, but it's literally that, right? And playing in matches is how you get your match fitness. And you can do all the preparation, all the conditioning work that you want and all the, body weight exercises and all those sorts of things. But the only thing that preps you for the game is the game, unfortunately. The sort of unpredictability of the game, changing directions and whatnot. And all those things are, at the end of the day, those things you can't simulate those at home. You can't simulate those in your basement, which is kind of where I was doing my stuff. So, I did my best. I strapped on my boots. I bought some turf, laid it down in my basement and made the best out of it. However, it was difficult, obviously, to, get up every morning and have to put in the work. But you kind of look at the silver linings in all this. It allows you to improve in some aspects. It allows you to improve on a discipline aspect, on a commitment level aspect, and hold your focus, right? And it's hard to, without a date, yesterday we officially got our date, but even training back at the field without a start date, it's difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel and what we're ultimately working towards, right? And as footballers, we want to get on the field, we want to play. That's where we find the most joy, right? So, I guess the silver lining would be just it challenges you in different ways, and if you made good use of the time, you can definitely come out stronger for it.
With Matthew Arnone, York 9 FC defender here on Vibe 105. Matthew, just like you mentioned there, the date, you guys finally got that. The CPL announced the Island Games going to be in P.E.I. So this is going to be a different season. A sprint now because there's going to be a tournament and then the group stage round robin play before the final. So what are your thoughts on this when you heard about the Island Games and how exciting are you to be finally back on the pitch playing?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is what we work towards. So, getting a definitive answer on when we're going to be playing, if we're going to be playing, is almost a relief off of our shoulders because of the work that we've put in. And I speak for the whole group when I say that we're elated, obviously, to be able to participate in competition in any way. Obviously, given the pandemic, we'll take what we can get, right? And that's kind of the mentality that I'm taking. It's football, and it's what I love to do, and I'll take it in any capacity. Sure, it's short. Sure, it's going to be a sprint, like you said. But it allows us to, again, just leave it all out there in a short period of time, and hopefully we can sort of put it all together in a short period of time, and make some noise.
Yeah, York 9 FC, all the signings they made, a lot of excitement around the team. You're one of the that came over from Halifax. Ryan Telfer's back on the team, Michael Petrasso, Chris Manella. So a lot of people have you guys going on to the final and winning it. So just talk to us about some of the additions here and what are you hoping to accomplish with this group?
Yeah, I think from a personnel perspective, you look at the quality on paper, it's quite high, right? And even some of the guys that are remaining, Maury Donor had a great year last year, kind of came out of the woodwork, similar to myself from League One Ontario, and even Abzi as well has had a fantastic first season, and you can only hope to expect more from those guys, right? And for that, I think the expectations are definitely high. Angus has brought in some fantastic players, and we trust in his vision for sure, and hope we can put it all together on the field, because at the end of the day, paper is paper, and you got to put it together on the field, right? And that's kind of where we'll be judged best, right? And that's kind of what we want. We want to be in that light. We like that. Obviously, people are recognizing and giving us the respect that we deserve, but now we need to show them why they gave us that respect in the first place and earn it, right? So we're looking forward to doing that. Obviously, it's a unique situation where, again, we're dealing with something that we haven't played a match in. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw a stat. It was like 281 days from the last CPL game. So it'll be an adjustment for sure, and but we're doing our best to prepare, and that's all we can do, right? We can trust our preparation and hopefully build confidence from the work that we've put in leading up to this tournament, and go out there and give maximum effort and leave it all out there, right?
Also, you brought up a great point there about the 280 something games that we haven't seen, like all the days that we haven't seen since the last CPL game. How important was that for the CPL to really take that into account, and teams can get adjusted, maybe like a preseason type of thing beforehand, because there might be some rust there with all these teams coming in. So how important was that they put the extra games into that preliminary group before ramping it up for the knockout round?
Yeah, I think it's important for sure. I think with the the sort of length of the season, every game is going to mean that much more, and everything will be put under the microscope even more. So it doesn't feel anyways, just because you're in a round robin per se, doesn't seem or feel, at least around the training grounds, that we have a game or two to figure things out. We want to hit the ground running, obviously, but yeah, I think it's important. I think, like you said, naturally the league took into account every single detail from, obviously that's why this announcement took so long. I think obviously they were logistically trying to plan it, and I think credit to them for actually being able to put things together, because from a sort of a planning perspective, I can't even begin to imagine what that must look like logistically, and safety protocols and all those sorts of things. So kudos to them. But I think the biggest thing I'll be interested to see the frequency of games and how players hold up, because at the end of the day, our bodies take a beating in a match, and if it takes 72 hours to recover and we're getting just that, I'd be, obviously injury might be a bit of an issue, but again, the league is doing what they can, and I think they did a great job. So I think it's up to us as players to ramp up our recovery, ramp up our preparation, and obviously fine-tune all the details in order to make the small incremental differences, hopefully, between staying healthy and not, and being able to perform at a high level for the duration of the tournament.
Yeah, and also the Canadian Championship is also a tournament that a lot of people are going to be keeping their eye on. They had to adjust it a little bit, but they did announce that they will have a different format. So how important would that be in terms of playing against the MLS side and getting a feel for things of how your team stacks up with the MLS? Because we saw that last year with Albert and Forge and the kind of runs they were able to go on. How important is that for you now, being in New York 9 FC?
Yeah, I think it's important individually as an individual for each and every one of us to show our stuff, right? And the exposure that will be there is super important. I think as a as a collective, I think it's important as a group to show that we're capable as well of holding our own against these clubs with larger budgets and a little bit more established organizations. Obviously, the CPL is young, but I think even more so as a community in the CPL, I think it shows well when you see the sort of two-leg battle that Ottawa had with Halifax last year, and the two-leg battle that Montreal had with York 9, and obviously Cavalry going on to beat the Whitecaps. So I think that was a good start for the Canadian Championship, and that's kind of why we have these competitions. And hopefully we can build on that. And if we get our shot against Toronto FC, it'll be, everyone will look at us as I guess, call it the lesser party and the underdog. But we're not really, we don't really value ourselves in that way, and we feel that in a one game knockout or even a two-leg, we fancy our chances if we can, if we can field a healthy squad. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to put us, in discussion rather than being a lesser league or being a league that one might consider lower. We'll be given the respect that we deserve as players and as a league as well. And I think that's important for world football, not just for North America.
Yeah, and also there, touching on that point, like a lot of people looking at CPL, there's going to be a lot more eyes on it, especially now with this Island Games and even the Canadian Championship. Some of the grassroots level, the youth level, are going to be looking at teams like York 9, like Forge, and having their own league. It does give them a path. So, how important is it to establish the CPL, especially in York region, where last year they weren't really getting the type of recognition in terms of fan fare at York 9 Stadium, and Halifax, where you came from, there was a lot there. So how do you hope York 9 will translate that to the youth level?
Yeah, I think naturally it gives them, because of the pandemic, we have another year to prepare for that, and obviously how you view the challenges is obviously, I mean, we're in Toronto at the end of the day. So in Halifax, their fans are fantastic, but the professional sports is few and far between, right? And you're coming to a market like Toronto, where we don't have enough fingers to count the professional sports teams. So you're competing at the end of the day with those fans and potential fans that are fans of the Maple Leafs, that are fans of Toronto FC, and also Toronto FC being the only club for a long time, as you mentioned. People in this region have identified with that club, right? So you're battling to sort of sway them to come to York region and support York 9 and, wear green instead of red. And those are the challenges that ultimately make, Toronto FC and York 9 rather, an obstacle, right? And it's a tough market to sort of dominate and capture. But again, I've full confidence in Angus and the marketing staff and their sort of, I guess, long-term plan for the club, not just as a player, but as a fan. Obviously I'm from here and I want the club to do well. So there definitely are challenges with respect to, Halifax, for example, or even in Calgary, obviously, where they do draw a good crowd. But I mean, these are the challenges that you take when you're breeding a professional club. I mean, Toronto FC wasn't like this at the beginning either, right? And we sort of need to continue to put one foot in front of the other, and in years' time, hopefully, we can look back at this very conversation and say, it looks a lot different now.
Yeah. With Matthew Arnone of York 9 FC, and Matthew, this pandemic has allowed you to also start your own ventures. Mindframe is the big thing that you were starting out. So, how did this all come about, and what were the preliminary stages of it?
Yeah, so I think this started back in 2017. It was an idea more than it was obviously put into practice, and it was 3 long years of research and sort of experiential learning as well, trying techniques and starting to see what works, and it kind of coincided with my path as a professional and what it took for me to be able to finally make the jump. Obviously it came out of necessity, and these sorts of techniques and what Mindframe is actually about came from my ability to find consistency and mental consistency and mental flexibility and sort of perspective in also the high intensity pursuit of being a professional athlete and performing at the highest level. And, that's kind of where I struggled, I feel, not really on the field. I think everything that kind of happened to me, I'm a big thinker, and my head is going a mile a minute at all times. And I needed a way to slow down, and I needed a way to sort of check out from performance and check out from, even just rewatching games and analysis. And my whole life was football, and there was no detachment from it. And I sort of identified with performances, and I really ended up, hurting myself for all of the effort that I put in. And the idea behind Mindframe is it's a lifestyle. It's a mindset that we want to expose youth athletes to, in a way that we can expose them to various techniques for sort of switching off and sort of gathering perspective in a way that it allows us to perceive stresses of competition. It allows us to perceive competition itself as something that can almost elevate our performance rather than be a detriment, like it was to me, right? And finding that consistency, and it's sort of, for me, it provides a competitive edge over, your competition. We believe at Mindframe that the mind is a muscle, and it should be treated as such. So, we train our bodies, to the nth degree, and we sort of neglect, in soccer especially, the mental side of the game, and even growing up and sort of living through toxic environments and not that they were toxic in a general sense, but in my world, they were toxic for me, depending on, my personality and my attributes and my sort of sensitivity to certain scenarios, and the ability to cope and deal with those things is obviously what allows you to sort of quiet the mind and calm and focus on performance, focus on the relevant cues for performance, rather than, for example, the crowd screaming in Halifax, the 7,000 people screaming in Halifax. How can we quiet the mind and hopefully allow the athlete to not just, block those things out, but also to be present and just enjoy the moment, right? And how can we allow the athlete who puts everything into this, how can we allow them to detach from those performances and realize that they are also a person, that failure is inevitable, and those sorts of things. So if we can quiet that fear of failure, we can quiet the mind to solely focus on what is at hand, then naturally the performance will improve. We do that through, obviously, mindfulness meditation, visualization, appropriate goal setting, where we allow the athlete to focus on what they can control and derive confidence in preparation, derive confidence in the things that they can control rather than what their opposition is going to do. Obviously through visualization, we're connecting mind and body, and we're strengthening those pathways. And on a scientific basis, if we're going to go there for a bit, obviously if we strengthen those neural pathways, then, we'll be able to, fire our muscles more efficiently. And if you're injured, you can practice visualization in order to keep your muscles firing, to keep those sensations and those neural connections intact while you're sidelined. And those are just some of the things that we work on, right? In addition to performance anxiety, and in addition to match day routines. And this comes from, like I said, experiential learning, but there's also scientific grounds behind it. So we're super excited. And I think ultimately the goal is, like I said, to give them perspective and allow them to use the mind as a tool rather than a detriment.
Also, like a lot of, especially at the youth level, a lot of kids playing like rep, house league, they kind of deal with that a little bit. And then after, the coach, some coaches deal with the team differently than maybe other coaches do. So like what kind of strategies would you recommend to them to take in effect when game or a season, a tournament, and get the best out of the performance?
Yeah, I think the big thing that we preach at Mindframe is that you need to be a person first and an athlete second. And I think understanding that and understanding what you stand for as a person and your core values, those don't fluctuate no matter the environment that you're in. Obviously, in my pursuit and in my journey, it took me to multiple clubs and overseas and all those sorts of challenges that come with that, and different coaches that want different things, right? And the one thing that should not waver are your core values and what you stand for as a player, as an athlete. And obviously you need to have mental flexibility in order to sort of sift through and, like we talked about earlier, find the silver linings and where you can actually improve, and naturally controlling the controllables, right? Performance anxiety is a very, very common thing amongst players, and even at the professional level, I've witnessed that. And And the funny thing about the mind is that it actually dictates the body. We say on Mindframe that the mind is the controller and the body just executes, right? So you can see in a person's body language, you can see in the way a person's facial expression, you can see in their energy levels, what they're going through and what's actually in their mind. And going through this and sort of educating myself on this, I also had the ability, hopefully, to help and impact some players back in Halifax and Italy and whatnot, and help them. And even now at York 9, hopefully be in tune with their feelings. And I think the main takeaway is, at Mindframe especially, we look to establish that ground level, that foundation for who you are as a person. And remember that, being an athlete is a privilege. Being an athlete is something that you're supposed to love. And remembering that and even the scientific grounds of smiling and what that had done. We posted earlier this week regarding smiling and what the actual scientific benefits are to smiling. And these are real things that, little tidbits of information and also things that I've tried myself. These are tried and true things that I can attest to. And where I've gotten today is definitely, I'm definitely a product of Mindframe myself. So I've taken the course. I've done it on myself. I've practiced all these measures, and yeah, we just look forward to exposing our athletes to this and overall improving their mental state and their mental acuity to not only life and sort of improve their mental health and the way that they view performance and being an athlete, but also just overall improve their performance. If we can quiet the mind, we can give them perspective on what's truly important in the sport. They'll perform better, right? Because a happy athlete is a high performing one as well.
Yeah, I agree there. That's a great thing you're starting up there. Hopefully you hit the ground running with it and everything goes good. And also another thing that you had to do, I guess, with COVID, putting a halt to a lot of events, the charity you have, the foundation for your brother, Jason's Wish. Just talk to our listeners about some of the changes you had to make and how they can donate after this interview.
Yeah, so Jason's Wish this year, obviously this is the 10th year of Jason's Wish. Jason passed in 2010 and we started actually as Play for Jay in 2011, which was a charity soccer game. We did that until about 2013 and then we kind of went and switched gears and made a Jason's Wish. From a charity soccer game, we moved to an event. So obviously all in Jason's memory, bringing the community together, especially here in York region. And yeah, so this year, obviously, a physical event of a couple hundred people is less than doable at the moment with the pandemic. So, the goal stays the same, obviously. And although it looks a little bit different, as I mentioned before, the goal stays the same. Our goal is to save lives. Our goal is to spare a family from going through what my family went through and, spare a patient, for example. Perhaps if we can provide them, the funds or the means in order to get state-of-the-art equipment or upgrade new equipment or even just as we've contributed to the helipad, the second helipad that's gone up at Sunnybrook in order for critical care victims to get their treatment faster. That's the goal, right? So nothing changes there. A pandemic can't slow us down in that way. And yeah, the link in our social media at Jay's Wish on Twitter, Instagram, and we also have Facebook, Jason's Wish. You can donate, link to donate. Tax receipts will be given, of course, directly through Sunnybrook. And yeah, anything helps. And even just spreading the word, even a simple repost on Twitter. And this is all about awareness. This is all about, helping our frontline workers in the critical care unit where they took such great care of Jason and gave him a fighting chance. So that's all we kind of want to do for other victims. And this, again, is about community. This is something bigger than myself. This is something bigger than my family. And we just try to make the best of an unfortunate circumstance in our case and hopefully prevent the same thing from happening to even just one family. And if we've done that, then I feel we've done our job.
Yeah, that's a great cause there. And everyone listening to this, if you're watching this on YouTube, IGTV, the link will be posted in our bio and on this video description. So check that out, donate, and support this great cause. Matthew, before we wrap up here, how can our listeners follow you on social media?
Very simple. On Instagram and Twitter at ArnoneMatthew23.
Sounds good. And everyone listening to this, Matthew will be taking the field in the Island Games. CPL return to play. York 9 FC is one of the favorites in this tournament. And Matthew, wish you all the best. Thank you for sharing your time and coming on, talking about all these initiatives and this return to play. Wish you all the best in this tournament.
Thank you. Thanks for the platform. And it's always a pleasure. I'll be back happily anytime you want me.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot. That was Matthew Arnone, defender of York 9 FC. Now we're going to send it back to the studio for more programming right here on Vibe 105.
And now back to your Vibe 105.